Zythuran Prime Academy floated like a jewel in the void of space, a sprawling labyrinth of towers, training grounds, and observation domes. Cadets from dozens of alien worlds bustled through corridors, their scales, feathers, or bioluminescent skin gleaming under artificial sunlight. Drills echoed through the halls, laser rifles charging, plasma swords clashing, and holographic enemies flickering in and out of existence. Amid all this controlled chaos, Kyla, the school nurse, moved silently. Her white uniform was spotless, her expression calm, her steps measured. She carried a tray of medical supplies, stopping occasionally to apply antiseptic to a scraped wing or patch up a minor burn. Students barely noticed her presence, assuming she was just a caretaker, a comforting voice in the background. Yet something about her drew the curious eyes of a few cadets. Ryan, a young azure-scaled student, noticed a faint burn mark on her forearm as she leaned over a wounded trainee. The mark was precise, almost ritualistic, unlike anything caused by a training accident. He blinked, convinced he must be imagining it. "Probably just a lab mishap," muttered his friend Tylov, though his tone carried doubt. There was an unspoken curiosity among the cadets. Kyla's movements were too deliberate, her touch too confident, her presence too commanding for someone who had supposedly never been near a real battlefield. The whispers started small. "Did you see the mark on her arm?" one cadet asked another. "I've never noticed that before." Another added, "I swear I saw a symbol under her uniform, like a medal or rank insignia, but alien." Speculation spread like wildfire. Could the nurse have been in combat? The idea was preposterous, yet strangely thrilling. Tension simmered in the air when Commander Varnock, one of the Academy's top generals, strode into the main training hall with a presence that made even the boldest cadets pause. His voice boomed as he announced a surprise combat readiness exercise. Panic mixed with excitement. Cadets scrambled to their stations, checking armor, adjusting weapons, and murmuring strategies. "Let's see who's truly ready for the field," Varnock declared, his multi-jointed limbs clanking against the metal floor. Cadets exchanged nervous glances. Some whispered about Kyla, half jokingly. "Do you think she's ever fought in real battle?" Ryan asked quietly. Kyla, meanwhile, prepared her infirmary, stocking medkits and disinfectant sprays, her calm demeanor unshaken. Her scars, partially hidden beneath her sleeves, were invisible to most, yet they traced stories of distant war zones, alien suns, and survival against impossible odds. No one suspected that this quiet, composed nurse, who hummed softly while checking vitals, was someone who had faced true horrors and lived to tell the tale. To the students, she was ordinary. But as the Academy braced for the exercise, that illusion was about to shatter in ways none of them could imagine. The first alarms blared, holographic enemies materialized, and cadets leapt into action. Somewhere behind the scenes, Kyla's eyes narrowed slightly, and a faint smile touched her lips. She had been here before. She knew what it took to survive. And soon, the students would learn exactly why a nurse's scars could outshine even the most decorated generals. The combat exercise had barely begun when chaos erupted. Holographic enemies flickered into existence around the training grounds, firing simulated plasma bolts that sent cadets ducking for cover. The students scrambled, many panicking under the pressure of their first real engagement. Kayla, however, moved with calm precision. She didn't charge into the fray with weapons drawn. Her battlefield was different. She guided the injured to safety, assessed wounds at lightning speed, and applied treatment with hands that moved almost instinctively. Her movements were fluid, efficient, and yet deliberate, revealing a hidden rhythm that hinted at far more than basic medical training. It was during this frenzy that Ryan and Tiv noticed something impossible. Kayla, bending to treat a cadet's shattered limb, pulled back her sleeve, and glimpses of her forearms shocked them. Scars crisscrossed her skin, each line telling a story of pain, endurance, and survival. Some were old burns that shimmered faintly with bioregenerative marks. Others were jagged lacerations, precise and purposeful, as if earned in combat rather than by accident. Tiv whispered in awe, These aren't from the training simulations. She's been in real battles." Ryan's gaze drifted to a faint glimmer beneath her uniform. Symbols, like miniature medals etched into her chest, caught the light as she moved. They didn't match any academy ranking system. These were badges of experience, forged in war zones no cadet had ever seen. The student's curiosity flared into obsession. As Kayla worked, her quiet hum masking the chaos around her, they began to piece together the impossible truth. Their nurse had survived battles that dwarfed any challenge they had faced. Every movement, every decision she made seemed guided by instincts honed in war, not classroom drills. But Kayla didn't flaunt her skills. When Ryan nervously attempted to ask her about the scars, she merely smiled. "Every mark has a story," she said, softly, her tone gentle but carrying the weight of someone who had seen worlds burn and still returned. "Some stories are best learned through experience, not questioning." The cadets were both frustrated and fascinated. The nurse they had dismissed as ordinary was revealing herself through subtle clues, her efficiency under pressure, her unshakable calm, and those silent, indelible marks of battle. As the exercise continued, Kayla's abilities became more evident. She coordinated triage stations, moved critically injured cadets from dangerous zones, and even anticipated simulated enemy attacks with uncanny foresight. Her calm was magnetic. Even the most panicked cadets found themselves following her lead instinctively. By the end of the first day, whispers had transformed into a quiet consensus. Kayla was no ordinary nurse. She was something far more remarkable. Someone who had survived interstellar war, whose scars told a history more dangerous and heroic than any of the Academy's top generals could claim. And as night fell over Zithran Prime Academy, the cadets returned to their quarters, minds buzzing with questions they didn't yet dare to ask. Kayla remained in the infirmary, tending to minor injuries, her expression unreadable, as though aware that soon the truth of her past would no longer be something hidden. It would be revealed in the fires of real combat. The sun rose over Zithran Prime Academy, casting pale gold light across the training grounds. What had been a controlled simulation yesterday became terrifyingly real today. A rogue fleet of marauders, pirates from the outer sectors, slammed into the Academy's perimeter. Warning sirens blared, holographic drills replaced by actual energy blasts that tore through the sky. Cadets froze in shock. "Defensive positions!" Commander Varnock shouted. But even his booming voice couldn't calm the panic. Students scattered in every direction, unsure of what to do under real fire. Ryan and Tiv clutched their laser rifles, hearts pounding. Then a calm voice called over the chaos. "Follow me," Kayla said. It was quiet, measured, yet carried authority that silenced the fear in her cadets' minds. Ryan's jaw dropped as Kayla moved effortlessly across the battlefield. She ducked behind a fractured wall, retrieved a cadet whose leg was pinned beneath a piece of debris, and carried them to safety without breaking stride. She deflected incoming fire with sharp, precise movements, sometimes using improvised shields, sometimes tossing debris to block blasts, all with the air of someone who had done this countless times. The students watched, wide-eyed. Every scar on Kayla's arm seemed to hum with energy, a silent map of experience. She wasn't just a nurse, she was a war strategist, a veteran of wars that spanned star systems.
her very presence commanding coordination and survival instinct. Tiv whispered, "She's faster than anyone in the academy. She knows where every blast is coming from." Kayla directed cadets into safe zones with a clarity that made the general's shouted commands seem chaotic. When a small group of marauders tried to flank the perimeter, she leapt into action using hand-to-hand combat with a grace and brutality that stunned everyone. Students who had mocked her efficiency in the infirmary now gaped in disbelief. Ryan saw it all: the precision, the timing, the calm decisiveness. Kayla was not merely surviving, she was dominating the battlefield. She coordinated defensive turrets, guided cadets to cover, and even improvised tactics that seemed impossibly advanced for anyone outside a seasoned military command. By the time the marauders were repelled, the academy lay in partial ruin, but casualties were minimal. The cadets were shaken, exhausted, and yet exhilarated. They had just witnessed what no drill could teach them. The nurse they had once dismissed as ordinary had survived where others might have fallen, her scars the proof of countless victories. As the last marauder ships retreated into the void, the cadets gathered around Kayla, their awe palpable. Commander Varnock approached, his pride and humility intertwined. Even he could not deny it. Kayla's experience in courage had saved the academy. For the cadets, the revelation was breathtaking. The woman who had patched their minor scrapes and calmed their fears was not only a healer, but a warrior, whose life story eclipsed the generals they idolized. Her scars were not marks of weakness, they were badges of survival, each telling a story of battles fought and lives saved. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Ryan and Tiv sat silently, staring at the nurse whose quiet strength had forever changed their understanding of heroism. In Kayla, they saw the ultimate lesson. Courage, wisdom, and experience are often hidden behind the most unassuming faces, and sometimes the greatest heroes wear no armor at all.
The aftermath of the battle left Zytheron Prime Academy scarred, but standing. Smoke curled from shattered training grounds, and cadets moved among debris, tending to minor injuries and checking on their friends. Commander Varnock walked the grounds, inspecting the damage, his usual confident demeanor tinged with an unusual respect. The students, however, had only one focus: Kayla. Word of her actions had spread like wildfire through the academy. No longer just the quiet nurse in the infirmary, she had become a living legend. Groups of cadets approached her, eyes wide with awe, whispering questions and praises. Ryan stepped forward first, hesitating slightly. "Kayla, we had no idea." His voice trailed off, unable to find the words. Kayla smiled gently, brushing a stray strand of hair from her face. "You don't need to understand everything," she said softly. "What matters is that you survived, and that you learned to trust yourselves." Tiv, usually brash and outspoken, nodded silently, overwhelmed by the realization that the nurse who had treated their minor scrapes and bruises had faced real death and survived countless times. Every scar on her arms, every subtle movement, now told a story of courage and sacrifice beyond anything the Academy's history books recorded. Commander Varnock stepped forward, placing a hand on Kayla's shoulder. I underestimated you," he admitted. "Today you proved that heroism is not about rank or medals, but about action, wisdom, and the lives you protect." The cadets cheered, insisting that Kayla receive formal recognition. A ceremony was quickly arranged in the Academy's central hall, banners fluttering, cadets gathered in anticipation. Generals and instructors looked on, some proud, some embarrassed, as Kayla stepped forward to accept the honor. Kayla remained humble. "This isn't about me," she said, her voice carrying across the hall. "It's about every one of you who faced fear today and still stood tall. Courage isn't a single act, it's a choice, every moment. Remember that, even when no one is watching."
The cadets erupted in applause, their admiration pure and unfiltered. Kayla's quiet presence, once overlooked, had reshaped their understanding of what it meant to be brave. No longer was she merely the school nurse, she was a living testament that strength could be hidden behind the most unassuming of faces. Later, as the sun dipped beneath the academy's horizon, Ryan, Tiv, and a few others lingered in the infirmary, watching Kayla clean and organize supplies as though nothing extraordinary had happened. "Do you think we'll ever understand what she's been through?" Ryan asked quietly. Tiv shook his head, smiling. "Maybe not, and maybe we don't need to. We just need to remember the lesson. Heroes aren't always in armor, and bravery isn't always loud." Kayla looked up, catching their gaze. "Exactly. And when the time comes, each of you will find your own courage. Just remember, the quiet ones often carry the heaviest weight." The students left with a renewed sense of respect, carrying stories and lessons they would pass down to every cadet who followed. Kayla returned to her duties in the infirmary, her scars hidden beneath her sleeves once more, but her legend etched permanently in the hearts and minds of those she had inspired. The academy had survived, yes, but more importantly, its students had learned that true heroism could reside in the most unexpected places, and sometimes it wore a gentle smile instead of a shining medal.